All right, we'll put the big business building up behind me. There we go. So one of the other things that comes along in times of growth, but also in times of trouble, is this need for capital. How do we find financing? And I'll tell you, as we look into a potential recessionary time, financing becomes harder and harder. This is where having good connections with your local banks becomes powerful. When you need to go asking for money to someone who's got a long track record with you, they've known you for 20 years, they're familiar and confident with you already, that's an entirely different game than when you walk into a bank for the first time and you have to introduce yourself and you have to convince them of all those sorts of things. So the first step that I would talk about would be just making sure that you've got some key relationships, and not just with one bank. I'd have 3 or 4 banks that you spend time with and you have on the hook, and they're familiar with your story, they're familiar with your track record. That hedges you a little bit. Um, Taking a look at the capital markets, when you think about needing cash, you know, how do you want to get that cash? Do you want to borrow it? Do you want to have investors? Do you want to have strategic investors? Another good thing to do as businesses grow is to bring in people with skin in the game that want to help in the business. So when you think about hiring key executives, one of the ways you can build some capital is you actually, look for people who have the right skill set, but can actually bring some capital in for, some percentage of the company. And now you're a little bit married and yoked together. And, it's not just an employee relationship, it's actually someone who's super invested. And the last thing that I would talk about a little bit is looking for some of those points in time where there's more capital that needs to be deployed out in the marketplace and there's places for it to go. And that sometimes is during these recessionary times when the markets are doing terribly. People are pulling their cash out, but they're not really loving their 0.2% savings account return either. And so, trying to find some of those right deals, lots of times that's the friends and family plan, right? It's the relationships you already have where, you've sort of put out the vibe that you are in the market for capital. And, right now a nice healthy 7 or 8% quote, quote, safe return looks a lot better than losing 20% in a day.